President Chin, we're ready to go.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. We're going to start. This is our February 16th, 2021 special board meeting. And we're calling the meeting to order at 10:03. We'll start with a flag salute. Yeah, flag salute, please.
One moment.
Or, sorry, flag.
Should I do the intro right now?
Oh, yes, sure. Yeah, please, why don't you do the intro while we're waiting? Yes, please, for language.
Buenos días a todos. Le queremos recordar que sí tenemos traducción disponible. Por favor, empuje el botón que dice interpretación. Es como un mundo y puede seleccionar español. Gracias.
Great.
Thank you, Trustee Corzo. Okay, we have a flag salute. Shall we begin? Ready? I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll go with roll call. Next is on our agenda. Trustee Corzo.
Here.
Trustee Proctor.
Here.
No.
Trustee Warren.
Here.
Trustee Watkins.
With extra.
And I'm here as well. Okay, so we're all here. Approval of the agenda. We have a very short agenda. Does anyone want to make a motion for approval of the agenda?
Motion to approve today's agenda.
And
Second.
thank you, Trustee Watkins for the motion and Trustee Proctor for the second. Roll call vote. Trustee Corzo.
Yes.
Trustee Proctor.
Yes.
Trustee Warren.
Yes.
And Trustee Watkins.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. Okay, we're under statements, public statements related to this agenda item. We will take public comment now, if any, and we will give everyone 3 minutes to speak. So Dan, would you be so kind to ask for public comment, please?
Yes, to our attendees, good morning. Please use the raise your hand functionality in Zoom at the bottom of your screen to make public comments on this agenda item at this time. And President Chin, we have one hand raised.
Great.
We have two. Shall I go with 3 minutes?
Yes, please.
We will first have Randy and then Marcella. Randy, please go ahead.
Hi, good morning, board. I am happy to speak with you today about your slate of candidates of search firms for the superintendent search. It's been said previously that this is one of the most important undertakings that you can be doing as the Board of Trustees, which is the selection of a new superintendent. And, this is a means to getting there, which is the search firm, which is going to present to you candidates and which is going to facilitate this search. I, as an interested member of the public, have read through these applications. That's the only information that I have about any of these candidates is what they included on the applications themselves. I have no outside information. And I just wanted to share with you what my impressions are as a member of the public. You have one candidate which seems really well qualified, yet brings you, presents to you more of what we've had. It's status quo. It brings you the same of what we've had. You have another candidate which seems comparably equally qualified and made some special effort to actually look into what this district is all about, even if that could be done in a cursory search of our webpage, but has looked into what the district is all about, is super well qualified, and seems to have had some really successful searches themselves. I'm pretty excited about this one. The last one is a firm that doesn't seem to have quite the breadth of qualifications that that I think that the other two have. So for me, the search would be, I mean, the candidate, there's a clear preference. If you want something that is going to bring you something different, is well qualified, and they all seem comparably priced. We're trusting you to make a really good decision here. And thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Marcella, please go ahead.
Thank you. Ooh. I had a couple of specific questions as we think about who might be, I don't know where the echo is coming from, sorry. As we think about who might be tasked with helping us find a new superintendent, I looked at community engagement and noticed that I just would want to know a little more about how they plan to engage the community. I saw small paragraphs, but not really a lot of like detail in there. And how do we access our families who aren't the type to come to these meetings and don't have the ease of communication that are more technologically connected families do? I saw surveys which aren't going to give us the depth of information that we really want from our community that can actually be utilized in a manner that gets at the heart of what we're looking for in a superintendent. And I want to know a little more about what kinds of systems they put in place to assure the board that the candidate's a good fit for our district, because I think we're special. I'd like to ask the board to look to a person who will follow Superintendent Rosas by building on her work in a way that's open, forward-looking, and focused on helping our district implement our vision of educating, inspiring, and empowering every student in every school every day to live, lead, and learn with integrity and joy. The space that this person will be coming into is challenging. It's unprecedented for our community. And they're going to be faced with a landscape that will require heavy lifting and really uncomfortable conversations as we reckon with the educational, social, emotional, and economic mess that this pandemic has left us. I want to ask you to listen for their perceptions on who they think we are, and that you pay attention to how they respond to that information. I found that Penn was an excellent fit for our district as we plan the North Central School. I don't off the top see the same alignment clearly with one or another of these search firms, but I do hope that you seek that same focus in our search for the incoming superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcella. President Chin, there are no other raised hands at this time.
Great. Thank you, Diane. I will officially close public comment for this meeting. We are now going on to our Superintendent Services Board review of the proposals and superintendent search and determination of the next steps. So just bringing everyone up to speed, we do have 3 proposals in front of us. The electronic copies were all put up on the website, and so everybody has them. The next step essentially is determining, well, is to determine the interview process. And so the question really comes down to it is, do you guys want the ad hoc committee to do the interviews, or do you want the board to do the interviews as a whole? Trustee Proctor and I have sort of walked through this, and we've talked about the different options. There's pros and cons with both, but I'll sort of lay them out, and I'll leave it up to the board. Whatever the board wants, we can go with. There's no sort of one right way or wrong way here. So just in terms of the interview process, we do have 3 consultants. I think it's probably preferred, since there are 3, that we actually interview all 3. If we had like 20, I think we could probably weed them down, but I think the fact that we have 3, I think it's easy to do. Generally speaking, the interviews will probably be about an hour long. If we go with the ad hoc committee, I think Trustee Proctor and I can go ahead and schedule the interviews for this week, and then possibly come back next week at the earliest, maybe Monday or Tuesday, for a board sort of execution of the recommended consultant. If we did that, the ad hoc committee, as 2 members, can go ahead and just schedule them without publicizing the noticing and the meetings and everything else, because we're an ad hoc committee and there's only 2. If we went ahead and did the full board, we're looking at a open public meeting. We're looking at, obviously, we would schedule the meetings or the interviews all in one so that we can be efficient in our time. You would be looking at like a 3 to 4 hour meeting to allow for an hour for each of the consultants, and so a debrief, either a pre-interview meeting and then post, probably, in terms of debriefing and where we'd want to go. The earliest we can probably do that is probably Saturday or next Monday would be the ideal. And then from there, we'd have to have another meeting to actually execute the contract. And so you're looking at probably a week difference in terms of the timeline for either or. It's really sort of the board's preference. Again, Trustee Proctor, we can go with either one. After we decide this, the idea is we could talk about sort of questions or direction in terms of what we want to ask and who wants to ask it. We do have a couple of slides with sort of some background of sort of topics and an outline of some of our questions that we can show you. But I think the first question is sort of, where would you guys like to go and in terms of the interview process? So it's sort of an open discussion. Whatever you guys want to do, we can do.
I kind of like the idea of having you and Allison as the ad hoc committee interview the candidates and then bringing back your findings and just basically reporting out on the interviews, simply because it moves the timeline along faster. You know, and I felt like each of the 3 proposals were very well written and very thorough. So I felt like I was getting a taste of how they would go about the search. So I'm fine with that, because then, like I said, we can just move the process along that much faster. And especially if we're looking for a July start date, I think time is of the essence.
Thank you, Trustee Warren. Trustee Watkins or Trustee Corso, do you want to, I mean, we can go either way you guys want to go.
I think just given how difficult it can be to schedule, it might make sense for you guys to do the interviews. The only thing I'm kind of toying with in my mind is just the benefit to the public of having the meeting agendized for people that may want to listen. And so I'm wondering that even if you and Allison were to do them, could they still be a public meeting for members of the public who wanted to listen to how the firms proceeded and, you know, answered questions. So that's the only thing that I'm kind of thinking about, just for folks that might be interested, the benefit of that. But I mean, I'm fine either way. I just think scheduling with 5 people is obviously more challenging than scheduling with 2 people. So those are my initial thoughts.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Watkins.
I think that a week difference isn't like a ton, and for me personally, like I think that, you know, the proposals are a great, you know, place to have to find a ton of information, but I think a lot of what I would want to look for is like the communication during the interviews and like just a feel for who we'd be working with. And so I would want to be, I would want all of us to do that. I know that's different from what other trustees have said, but I just think this is like super, I mean, we scheduled this meeting, right? We can schedule, it's not impossible. And it's super, super important. So even though I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm like super exhausted and I have a lot going on, but this is also super important. So that's how I feel about it.
Okay. Trustee Proctor, did you want to provide any comments?
I'm fine with either way. I do like the idea of having as many of us on the call as possible, just because it is, I mean, we're a team and we all come from different perspectives, and different things may be important to different people. So if we're able to schedule, I would be open to having everybody. But also if we're not, then I'm okay with it just being the two of us.
Okay. Well, I would definitely say that if we were all there, that satisfies the public meeting thing, and what Trustee Watkins was mentioning. So I think the public would obviously be there to listen. You know, as we schedule them, we can schedule them, and of course, I wonder if there's a disadvantage or advantage, but obviously during these times, the third consultant could listen into the first consultant's interview and know what the questions we're going to ask. But you know, that's just the way it is. So Superintendent Roses, Dr. Roses, it looks like you were coming in here.
I'm just interested in establishing some timeframes, whether people are available on the weekend or whether the weekday would be better, so that we can send out a Google invitation and get it posted. Is Saturday available to folks?
I'll just say for me,
Monday, Tuesday.
Oh, sorry. For me, weekends are really, really hard right now. I can make it work if people cannot make the week work, but they're really, really tough for me.
Okay, so a Monday, Tuesday, I could send some possible dates and times to you for Monday, Tuesday.
We could also just decide now, right?
You can.
Yeah, I think it might be good for us, and to think that it will probably be like a 4-hour block of time, I'd say. So does anybody have any?
Monday morning or a Tuesday morning, or would you rather have afternoon or evening? Which would work better for you?
Well, we have school visits next Tuesday morning.
Yes.
So maybe Monday then, so that we don't have, unless we're just trying to do like one full day of
Being together.
Right.
It's not like we haven't done that before. Right? I would say Monday too. I don't know. Does anybody have any specific preferences? Monday morning, Monday afternoon?
I won't be able to do until I won't be able to do until probably like 10:30 or 11 on Monday would be the earliest I could do. So I have a doctor's appointment for
11 o'clock on Monday morning also would be the earliest I could do. But Mondays are totally free and clear. I don't work, anything like that. The weekends can be dicey due to work.
Sounds like Monday afternoon, unless Trustee Corzo, does that work? Monday afternoon?
That's fine.
Trustee
I
Proctor?
do wonder.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just from like I wonder, like, you know, what would be kind of best for the community if we want to, you know, get more people as attendees.
So then do you think maybe Monday evening? Because I mean, at
Monday
least people would
evening,
be
there
home.
is a meeting that I have to attend at, with one of the schools. There's actually 2 different meetings going on in the evening.
Afternoon is fine then.
Okay. Trustee Proctor, does the afternoon work, Monday afternoon?
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay. So what we can do is Trustee Proctor and I will reach out to the, well, actually, Dr. Rose, if you can sort of schedule that.
So we're talking about Monday, February 22nd. I heard people say 11 o'clock, and then I heard you say afternoon. What time do you want to start?
I would say 1 o'clock. I mean,
Okay, so February 22nd at 1 o'clock. Just a suggestion that you give yourselves 30 minutes or 15 to 30 minutes to organize your questions and who's going to say what. if
Yeah.
you're not completely finished today with those questions, and then start your first interview then at 1:30. So 1:30, 2:30, 3:30, and probably you can finish by 4.
Yeah.
Okay. We will set it up for you. Do you want
Great.
us to make
Thank
the
you.
calls to the consultants to tell them to come? Or will
No, I
you-
think Trustee Proctor and I can go ahead and
Okay.
schedule that, and we'll
All right.
reach out
We'll
to them.
just do the
and just,
posting.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll let them know that this is the time that we've set aside for the interviews and everything else. I guess the one question is we also probably want to allow for public comments, so we'll have to build in time for that at the beginning of the meeting, as well as this will be a special meeting. So generally, great. Now that we've settled that, Diane, if you could pull up the slides. Generally, what we should do is talk about sort of questions and specific questions. But, oh, thank you, Diane, for making it look so nice. I just had more of a bullet point thing. So basically, interview process normally would be sort of a 15-20 minute presentation, and then a 30 to 40 minute Q&A by us for the consultants. I think this is generally how we have done consultant interviews in the past. I know Trustee Proctor and I just came off of the Measure T consultants, and generally, I think most of the consultant interviews are like this. And then next slide, please. And so Trustee Proctor and I went through, and these are just general sort of an outline of some things that we've thought of. Obviously, we are talking about now, so everything's going to be public. And so I think any firm or any public member will know kind of what questions or generally what topics we're looking at. But I'll just break these down and then we can talk about these afterwards. So just general opening background experience, sort of what the experience of the search firm is, what the background and experience of the actual lead consultants, because a lot of times it's not necessarily the firm itself, but who we're actually dealing with as the lead. And then maybe historical success. We kind of might want to know whether or not anyone has done in their superintendent placements, what is their success rate in terms of how long has those superintendents stayed with those districts. I think on average, we've heard, right, a superintendent normally stays on average with a district 5 years. And so do they have any analysis of saying like, hey, we've actually placed, 100 superintendents and they've all stayed on average 10 years at their district, or what is? Maybe they have a history, maybe they don't. Overall process and methodology, sort of a timeline, just in terms of what they're, similar to what they have in their proposal. Want to understand sort of the local versus national outreach efforts and how they may differ in that approach. We want to know what sort of diversity outreach they have as well. In terms of community outreach, talk through the process of the outreach to key stakeholders. We want to know what their experience with the different languages and different cultures may be. We also might want to know what is their experience like, obviously during COVID. We're not meeting sort of in person. How have things changed? What is how are they approaching this? Next slide. Overall costs, just generally, and then just what the add-ons are, and then also if there's anything else that we want. Candidate vetting process, sort of just generally described like the background checks, and then also consultant, like sometimes the consultants have preferred candidates and sometimes they let us review all of the qualified candidates. So we kind of want to know what their thought process there is that, and whether or not they're actually firm on saying, no, we will only show you our preferred candidates after their review, or whether or not they will allow us to review all the candidates. There are some consulting firms that actually only pitch like their own internal candidates sometimes. And so there's pros and cons here. And this way we'd want to actually ask the question. Also, so just lastly, is board and consultant expectations. This is kind of like, how are they communicating with us? How responsive are they? What they kind of expect from us in terms of timeliness and maybe setting up meetings, maybe responding to them, just overall communications back and forth. And I think that's sort of generally the outline. Then you can show off the slides. So this is sort of generally what we have as sort of outlines. We can kind of actually come up with detailed questions from here. But the thought was to just sort of explain where we are initially going. And then I'm going to open it up to actually questions for you guys, or whether or not you guys want to, you know, since we're all going to be there, we can all write down some like detailed questions. We can have a pre-meeting before our meeting on the 22nd, so we can actually just say, hey, these are the questions we want to answered. Or we can also talk about them now. So let's sort of open the floor up to sort of a discussion. If you guys want to add anything or have any questions.
My initial thinking is just, I think I would really like to make sure that we use the time not to kind of re-ask things that we already have in their proposal, because those are in the proposal, right? So, but to dig into the things that are specific to our district. So, you know, I think to Marcella's point, like some of, you know, the communications pieces is going to be really, really important, how we're reaching all individuals. I also, you know, think about maybe asking, you know, when we think about kind of like their successes, we have all of that listed, who they've worked with, you know, the tenure of superintendents for some of them, et cetera. But I wonder about, you know, almost asking for like a, kind of like a case study, like talk to us about a district that you've worked with that had a similar equity focus and what you did. What was your process? What was your communications process? How did the search go? Who did you find? How long have they been there? Like making it a little bit more specific and tailored to, you know, to our district versus kind of just general questions that we can kind of pull from their proposal. You know, we just want to get as much, I think, information as possible out of this and make sure that the time is well spent versus, yeah. So that's kind of my only thought on some of the things that were listed there. I felt like we already know the information, so let's not waste time kind of re-asking it.
That's great. Thank you. Does anybody else want to comment on anything? No, Dr. Roses, it looks like, oh, go ahead, Trustee Warren.
Yeah, I was going to just echo what Trustee Watkins was saying, and especially I do like the idea of case studies and just really being able to delve deeper into just the different equity groups and, you know, how they intend to, or like basically answering our questions and what we expect and how they've gone about, you know, engaging, that's the word I'm looking, it's been a long weekend, engaging with members of the community that are generally disenfranchised or left behind or forgotten. You know, I want to make sure that that group and those groups are a huge part of this process as well.
Great, thank you.
I was going to say, and I don't know how to exactly word this, but I think that as Randy mentioned, one of the proposals did dive a little bit deeper into our specific district. And so I'm wondering if during the process, like if we've given them enough information, I don't want them to have to feel like they have to just, like we're quizzing them, they have to know everything about our district. I think it's important that we share what our values are and what we're really looking for, because like we need to be in sync with them, and it shouldn't be so much of a like they need to go through the website and really understand us. So I don't know if our RFP gave enough information about our district, or if we want to start with like a little intro, or how do we introduce what's most important to us. And so it's not an answer, it's more of a question for the group. But.
I think that's a really good point, Allison. And I wonder if potentially you and Ken, when you reach out, could set some of that context, but also like, you know, I wonder around like the equity and communications piece. I don't know, maybe people can throw out other things that are really important that we know that we're going to want to ask them about, even if we don't have specific questions. So, you know, like if folks are in alignment around like the case study piece, just giving them a heads up, like we're really excited to hear about a district that you've worked with where this is kind of in the background and hear about your process. So please come prepared with that. Like if there are a couple of things like that we give them a heads up, I think that makes sense versus like a gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. I know that we have, I have experience in where we have given consultants, like not pre-questions, but a heads up on certain things. And so, so this way they're a little more prepared and not necessarily wasting our time or their time, but no, that's good. Trustee Corso, do you want to say something? Oh, okay. Dr. Roses, I know you jumped in here.
Just looking at process, you are going to want to go over the questions prior to starting the meeting with each one, because you do want to give each one those same questions. I mean, you might delve into something deeper with someone if they say something you want to know more about, but those questions guide all three conversations. So if you're not designing the questions right now, and you're going to design them in between and have folks look at them on the 22nd, you may need more time to review what you're asking.
More time before the meeting or more time just as a separate meeting in between?
Well, if you're doing a
today.
separate meeting, I need to advertise,
Yeah.
I mean, I need to post that. So that's fine. You can certainly do a separate meeting on questions. I thought this one was where you were designing your questions. I'm hearing topics, but not necessarily the questions. And how questions are asked makes a difference. So certainly I can do whatever you want. I'm just, as a process point of view, letting you know that it takes a while to design those type of questions.
Thank you. Well,
Are we able
ahead.
to start like like submit questions and then have those you know, collected, and then we could review them at the beginning of the meeting? Does that make sense? Like we each come up with our own questions, we send them to Joan, she puts them all together, and then we, you know, we can have like we can have the topics, and then we can create our questions underneath, and a lot of them will likely be similar. I think that maybe would be a good use of our time.
You can send them to me and I can group them and create a draft that you can then on the 22nd look at the beginning and determine if these are the questions you want to go with. That way you'll have something already written to begin with. So if each of you submits separately to me, I can group them for you. And it won't take as long for you then on the 22nd. If you try to write them on the 22nd, it will take you a long time.
I like that idea. The only thing I'd add is I wonder if we do like, you know, your top 3 or something. Like, I don't think it makes sense for each of us to submit 10 questions, right? Like really think about what are the core issues for you in this, and then we submit those so that we, you know, then have 10 or so that we're kind of sifting through.
Yeah, that works. And I think that if we all go ahead and submit questions to Joan, I think, yeah, this is sort of the Brown Act issue, right? So we're gonna send it all to Joan, and Joan, you could just send it back out to us, and then we can have our meeting right before to discuss which questions we're gonna ask, and, you know, and actually wordsmith it so we actually ask the same question to each person, exactly the same. And then we can talk about who's going to ask the questions in the overall process before. So I think that'll work.
So I can post a draft so that all of you can see them, and then you would be ready so that on the first at 1:30 or I'm sorry, 1 o'clock, in 30 minutes you would be able to review that draft, because you would have seen it, you could have considered it, and then you would be ready to discuss it.
That sounds great. I think we should go ahead and do that. So we should probably set a timeline here. Normally, Dr. Roses, you send us our Friday updates. So should we say everyone should submit their top 3 questions to Dr. Roses by Friday, by Thursday? Say Thursday. Does that work?
Sooner better, because then
Yeah.
I can group them and get them posted.
Yeah.
So yeah, when no, absolutely no later than Friday, because then you have the weekend to look at them and be ready to discuss on Monday.
Yeah. Is Thursday okay with everybody? Close the business? 5
Thursday or
o'clock?
Friday would be fine, and I can just whatever you want to do.
Okay. Is everybody okay with that? Great. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I think we're okay then. Does anybody have any last questions, comments? I think for those in the public who are listening, obviously, if there are some questions maybe that you're keenly interested in, maybe send it to Trustee Proctor and I, and we can send those on to Dr. Roses as well. And then we can decide whether we're going to use those in addition to our questions. That might be good too. This way that the public have some input would be great. Great. Anything else? Anybody else? We're all good? Okay, so next steps, again, submit your 3 questions to Dr. Roses. This week, Trustee Proctor and I will start making calls, let them know that we will have time slots 1:30, 2:30, and 3:30, and we'll go from there. Okay. All right, guys, thank you. Do we need a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Thank you, Trustee Proctor, and thank you, Trustee Corzo, for the second. Roll call vote, Trustee Corzo.
Yes.
Trustee Proctor.
Yes.
Trustee Warren
Yes.
and Trustee Watkins.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes as well. Okay, great. Thank you, guys. We are adjourned at 10:40. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.